I have decided to make a presentation with two parts. Part 1 will be this video, where I will go over the specified notes and analyze the book of Isaiah chapter 14. And Part 2 will give a summary of the notes and finish with an analysis of Ezekiel 28. Now, if you're a Bible study student, you should already know by now what this will be about. This is by far one of the most vital and crucially important topics within the realm of Christianity. Believe it or not, the concept of Satan in Christianity is the second largest pillar keeping this faith alive to this day, keeping its identity, after the concept of Jesus, of course. So whoever is not prepared to follow through with this critical examination may leave now. Otherwise, watch and listen closely as I dissect Satan in this presentation. I will begin with quick notes taken through the course of my studies, starting with fallen angels. One of the oldest texts that mention fallen angels is the first book of Enoch. There are 3 books of Enoch, each distinct from the other. Jews reject the 3 books of Enoch because they contain some Christian elements like Latin and Greek words, stories only presented in later Christian literature, and etc. Some early church fathers accepted the book of Enoch, like Athenagoras, Clement of Alexandria, Irenaeus, and Tertullian. Chapters 37 to 71 of Enoch are missing from the Qumran scrolls, so scholars theorize that those were later Christian interpolations to the Book of Enoch during the 2nd century CE. The Church later rejected the Book of Enoch as pseudepigraphical, or works ascribed to a certain author for the purpose of giving authority and acceptance, thus it not being added to the mainstream Bibles. The Epistle of Barnabas considers the Book of Enoch to be scripture. The Epistle of Jude quotes Enoch, which also led the Church to briefly doubt its authenticity. However, with the belief that some scripture can only be partially God-inspired, they considered Jude's quotation of Enoch. Some say the sons of God, mentioned in Genesis 6, are fallen angels, and others say that they are the once righteous descendants of Seth, who descended to a sinful nature by lusting after pagan women. So far, as we can see, nothing links the stories of the fallen angels in Enoch 1 or Genesis 6 to Satan. Now let's move on to Lucifer. The first translated Bible to mention the word Lucifer is the Vulgata, in the 14th chapter of Isaiah. The word Lucifer means light-bringer, from the Latin words lux meaning light and fer meaning bearer, and it used to refer to the planet Venus, which shined before sunrise and sunset, thus also called morning star. Just like the majority of his other fellow prophets, Isaiah uses metaphorical or simulative figures of speech to describe people or events around him, like God referring to Israel as his vineyard in Isaiah 5, without using adverbs. Keep that in mind. The first to use Isaiah 14 as reference to Satan was Tertullian, while some say the first to identify Satan by the name of Lucifer is Origen of Alexandria. They were 2nd to 3rd century contemporaries. Early Christians did not reserve the word Lucifer as an exclusive name for Satan, as a theologian and Bishop Theodoret of Cyrus still recognized Isaiah 14 to refer to the king of Babylon. And in other cases, like in the Easter Exultet and in a hymn by Bishop Hilary of Poitiers, the term Lucifer was used to refer to Jesus, as he wrote, Tu verus mundi Lucifer, you are the true light bringer of the world, in Latin. Now with the notes about Satan. Satan was mentioned in 3 books from the Jewish Bible, in the first book of Chronicles, Job, and Zechariah. Some Jewish sects believe that Satan is an agent spirit that works on God's behalf to test people, and some other Jews believe that Satan is a metaphorical resemblance of evil, meaning there is no textual basis that clarifies to the Jews the actual origins of Satan. The Jewish Bible does not claim that the serpent which tested Adam and Eve is Satan. The Christian story of Satan's origins and fall is based on the opinions of some early church fathers, like Tertullian, on Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28. The description of Satan's appearance as a goat man with horns started during the Middle Ages, and his addition of bat wings even later. So as you can see, with this knowledge, we may understand where and how Christians got the story and image of Satan. But in order to understand where their spiritual founding fathers went wrong, we must observe the overlooked details by reading the passages ourselves and analyzing the context of the text. So now let's listen to chapter 14 from Isaiah, verses 1 to 22, concerning the king of Babylon.
For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will still choose Israel, and settle them in their own land. The strangers will be joined with them, and they will cling to the house of Jacob. Then people will take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel will possess them for servants and maids in the land of the Lord. They will take them captive, whose captives they were, and rule over their oppressors. It shall come to pass in the day the Lord gives you rest from your sorrow, and from your fear and the hard bondage in which you were made to serve, that you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, How the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. He who struck the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he who ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and no one hinders. The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. Indeed, the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, Since you were cut down, no woodsman has come up against us. Hell from beneath is excited about you, to meet you at your coming. It stirs up the dead for you, all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. They all shall speak and say to you, Have you also become as weak as we? Have you become like us? Your pomp is brought down to Sheol, and the sound of your stringed instruments. The maggot is spread under you, and worms cover you. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, all of them, sleep in glory, every one in his own house. But you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch, like the garment of those who are slain, thrust through with a sword, who go down to the stones of the pit, like a corpse trodden underfoot. You will not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land and slain your people. The brood of evildoers shall never be named. Prepare slaughter for his children because of the iniquity of their fathers, lest they rise up and possess the land, and fill the face of the world with cities.
For I will rise up against them, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant, and offspring and posterity.
So to summarize the context of these passages, Yahweh promises the revival of Israel and the destruction of Babylon. As we can all see here, the church did not only ignore the context as usual, they utterly disregard the next couple of verses right after the ones they deliberately misinterpreted. When Yahweh clearly addresses the king of Babylon, saying, Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners? So there's absolutely no indication that Isaiah was talking about anything other than a man that people will stare and ponder over for his unexpected doom. And for those Christians, don't even think about saying that this is a double prophecy, where prophets suddenly change phase and talk random information. That is an exclusively Christian notion or escape route. They have not even manipulated the text. They have blatantly torn it out of its context and misinterpreted it. But yet again, this is just one of many more misinterpreted texts by the church that I'll be sharing here. So that'll be it for part 1. See me in part 2.